Hey guys, so a big question that's been asked is who is the best archer or bow user in Genshin Impact? And that's a pretty tough question to answer. And I'm interested because a lot of the archer characters are considered to be some of the best in the game, and that's maybe because of either their high damage output, their high support capability, or even their healing and shields. And we're going to discuss this, in this video because I want to show everyone what each character can do, because the potential is really high with some of these characters. So if you do enjoy this little discussion today and you want to support me, you can always feel free to sub, because only 4.8% of people watching my videos are subscribed. And if you're new or returning to the channel, we do daily Genshin Impact guides, discussions, news, anything in between. And I'm trying to do YouTube full time, so if you guys want to support me by subbing, that will greatly help me out. So let's get into it. So, I mean, there is no, best, but because they're each in their different categories. But we can start off with the worst. Well, what people like to call the worst, at least. And that character in particular would be Amber. Now, I feel bad because I love Amber's design visually. She's one of my favourites. I love the design of Baron Bunny. I love the design of Amber. She's very cute. I love her so much. But the main weakness with Amber is her abilities. And whilst it's easy to build her as a free-to-play player, because you can get Prototype Present for free, you can get Favonius Warbow for free because from the main story. So, and also Wimbly mode is also free as well. So what makes her weak? Well, her ranged attacks don't actually have much of a damage percent on it. Which, okay, fine, that's fine. It might not be as high as maybe Ganyu, for example. But what about her abilities? Well, she's got a taunt, and that's Baron Bunny. And Baron Bunny scales with Amber's max HP. Now, having a taunt that scales with HP is good, because that means that it will tank a lot of shots and you can run away. However, the main thing with taunts, and what I've realized what a lot of Genshin players want, is they want it to do damage over tanking and survivability. So ideally, a lot of people don't like Amber's Baron Bunny because of how long it takes for it to die, and when it dies, it doesn't do as much damage as people hope, and it's not a very good ability to a lot of players. But having a taunt is still pretty useful. Now, her burst is Fiery Rain, and that it showers a lot of arrows, doing a lot of AoE pyro damage. That's really good for reaction compositions. However, the thing with this is, whilst it has a really low energy cost, it only lasts for a whole 2 seconds, which, whilst 2 seconds is really slow, you could use a Jangling, for example. You could use Jangling's Pyronado, that lasts for 10 seconds, and that applies continuous pyro damage. The only difference is, this has an energy cost of 18, this one has an energy cost of 40, but, there's better out there, and unfortunately there's a lot of characters that just do more than Amber, and it's a real big shame because I love Amber so much, but it's okay. So we're going to talk about one of the other characters that is a bow user, and that's Diona. Now, Diona is one of the best support, healer, shield characters in the entire game, and that's because of how her stuff works. Now, for basically the way that Diona works, if you didn't know, is that basically if you hold down her E, it creates a shield. Now, that's great. It creates a shield. It shields her, it shields you, it shields your entire team, based off of Diona's max HP, which, okay, it's a bit weird that you build max HP, she's not going to be doing as much damage as you guys would hope so, but that's great. You'll know why it's great. It's because her burst is a bit like Bennett's healing. It also scales off of your max HP as well, but it can heal you up to 4 instead of Bennett, healing up to like 70%, I believe, which for Diona is really useful because you can heal someone up to full HP, and then you can overheal them in the form of a shield. So let's say you got someone at full HP, like for example Diona here. You drop down the shield and you get a bit of overheal. Now, overheal is extremely useful because that means your character can't, lose their HP, which means you don't need to heal them up for a little bit longer. And in Genshin right now, a lot of players value shields more over healing, because whilst you can heal a character to full HP, sometimes a bit of a delay. For example, Chi-Chi, you're gonna have to, switch out to a character to heal sometimes, and if you switch out to the character, they might die. However, for example, if you put down a Diona shield, you can switch out to a character of choice, and they won't die instantly. So therefore, that's why a lot of players value shields over healing sometimes. So therefore, Diona is actually fitting in as one of the best healer and shield characters in the game right now, and if you guys, you know, are interested in a character like that, I honestly recommend building Diona. I'll build her when I build my other supports and I build the rest of my team and I finish doing those first, because she does look like a fun character. However, whilst Diona's one of the best supports, so is Fischl. Now, Fischl is one of the best reaction-based supports in the entire game, and that's because of her bird Oz. Now, the reason for this is because whilst you can apply Electro by shooting, Oz, for example, is basically a turret. Now, put down Oz, you can switch out to another character, maybe apply Cry, for example, and maybe you know, or trigger a freeze reaction. Well, not a freeze reaction. No, that's Cry on water, but like, you know, trigger an electro charge reaction, which means that, you know, you don't have Fischl on the field because Oz will be always applying that electro damage, and it's some big electro damage as well. You know, we don't knock it because Fischl is a very easy character to build as much as Diona is, because whilst you might not have the stringless, Wind Blue mode is also good, which you got for free if you played during the 1.4 event, like this patch. Or Favonius Warbow is a free weapon you can get by playing through the main story. Now, I hear you guys right, and I know some of you guys like to play Fischl in a specific playstyle, and I'm going to talk about Compound Bow. You can make Fischl a physical damage dealer. That's right, she doesn't have to be a support, she can be a physical damage dealer, and it's a really fun idea. So what you do is you go to your Fischl, she's your main damage dealer, you put down the Oz, you might pull out, I don't know, a Cryocaptor like gun, you might pull out you might do a Super Conduct, and then you just spam. And with the way Compound Bow works, the more and more attacks like this that you spam, the higher your damage is going to be, which means you'll be dealing even more damage, and you'll be dealing a lot of physical damage just by playing that kind of playstyle with Fischl, which makes her a really fun hybrid of a support and a damage dealer if you want to play her like that. And, you know, I feel like you should play it on your team as well. Now, I don't have Venti, but we can talk about Venti. Venti is a anime bow user, and a lot of people don't use Venti for his, like, main charge attacks. They use him for his burst, specifically, and maybe sometimes his E, and for exploration purposes. But the way that Venti's burst works is, so for example, let's say you got a Klee, you do your Pyro, and you apply them all Pyro damage. You're a Catalyst user, so you're always going to be doing Pyro. Now, let's say Venti comes along, he uses his burst, and he sucks in every enemy in the entire game, you know, within like a 10-meter radius, and it applies a swirl reaction. Now, if you put Venti with a very distant set, which, I'll be honest, everyone does it, what it will do is it will decrease the resistance to Pyro by 40%, which means your Klee not only has every enemy grouped up together, because Venti has the highest crowd control in the entire game, he also now can basically enable your Klee, for example, it doesn't have to be your Klee, you can be any character, to do 40% more damage to that specific element, which in a Catalyst user's case means you're doing 40% more damage to every enemy sucked in that circle, which means Venti is objectively one of the best supports in the game, and if you have him, it can make any team like extremely powerful, with, you know, just by having him there. Now, we're going to talk about two last characters, Ganyu and Tartaglia. I'm going to talk about Ganyu first because, in my opinion, she's the easiest one of the two to build because she's so simple. So, both of these characters are damage dealers. Ganyu's also a support character, you can also run her as a support, but a lot of people like to run her as damage, and they're both AoE damage dealers. So, for example, Ganyu, she shoot a shot and it explodes into shrapnel. Now, the shrapnel does more damage than the original burst, than the original arrow. So, for example, you can see that the charge shot level 1, so it will do 211%, and then it will split off and do 370%, so it doesn't even matter, you don't even need to hit them, you could aim at the floor, you know, and still deal big AoE damage, which makes Ganyu extremely easy to play, and as well, you don't even need to, you know, focus on crit rate, because if you have double cryo, or, you know, you've got her Undivided Heart, which is her first talent, you're going to be getting a free, you know, 15% crit rate, which means she just gains a lot of crit just by her resonance and her talents, so you can just focus all on crit damage and do a ton of damage basically. Now, artifact wise is also easy, you know, you can put in 4-piece Blizzard Strayer, or you can do 4-piece Blizzard, 2-piece Gladiator, it's very simple, but the main thing is that Ganyu's a very easy, free-to-play kinda character to build, because you can use the Prototype Crescent or the Blackcliff Warbow for her, but ideally Viridescent Hunt's also good, but also Aimless Bow is probably the best weapon for her. One thing I forgot to mention as well is Ganyu's abilities. Her E is basically, that's a big AoE taunt, which is huge, because, you know, AoE taunt, if they're afflicted by water, that's a big freeze, and also her burst is more like Amber's burst. It rains down cryo from the sky, however this lasts indefinitely basically if you have enough energy recharge on it, because the cooldown for it, I believe, is 15 seconds, and the duration is 15 seconds, so if you manage to get enough energy, technically you could indefinitely use Ganyu's ice, like, you know, ability, and that's all really cool as a support, because you can switch into a Tartaglia or maybe a Pyro character and do Melt, you can do Freeze, you can do a lot of different things here with that, and that makes Ganyu a really good support character. Now, Childe, for example, is a bit harder. Well, back in the day he was buffed in 1.2 because they had an artifact set for him, but you can use his main bow, but that's not where his damage comes from. This applies Riptide to the enemy, and Riptide is basically an AoE kind of flash. It does a tiny bit of damage, but if an enemy's Riptide explodes, it will spread to another enemy, and, you know, you can see where that comes from. Now, the main thing is Childe's melee stance. Now, melee is his easiest form of damage, and you will do it either like that, or you might do it in charge attack, you might use it as a support kind of thing, but the main takeaway here is that Childe is a big AoE user, and whenever he hits a crit, his Riptide will explode, spreading it to all the other enemies, and you can see how the damage racks up quickly, and his burst is one of the biggest, you know, damage numbers in the entire game. Like, literally at level 6, it does like 650% if you do melee, which is quite a big number. You know, that's quite a high scaling skill. So yeah, you can see how Childe really becomes a massive damage dealer. He's also somewhat easy to build as well. You know, you can either use the Viridescent Hunt from the Battle Pass, go with half if you got one. If not, you can use the free-to-play Blacksmith weapon or the Blackcliff weapon like I do. But yeah, let me know down below, who do you think is the best character in each aspect? So who's your best damage dealer, who's your best support, you know? Let me know, because I know a lot of people have different opinions, and I want to see what everyone's opinion is. So thank you guys for watching today's video. I really hope you guys did enjoy it, and please take care, because I'm going to see you guys very, very soon for another video. So have a lovely day, everyone, and I'll see you all later.